Hello, my name is Ryan from Buster Beagle 3D, and today I'm going to be talking about the Bambu Lab's A1 Mini 3D printer. Now, I know I'm about 7 months late on this machine, but when I saw it was now selling for $249 for the standalone version without the color-changing AMS Light, I thought, what do I have to lose? And I'm so glad I checked it out. This printer is by far the easiest, best, most beginner-friendly yet feature-capable 3D printer I've ever used. If you were tech-savvy enough to find this video online, then yes, you are capable enough to use this 3D printer in your home. So first, I wanted to be very clear that I bought this 3D printer, and this video is in no way, shape, or form sponsored by Bambu Labs or anyone else in any way. I just wanted it, so I bought it. I ordered this through their website, and it arrived a few days later. Unboxing was simple and easy, and most of the 3D printer came fully assembled from the factory. You just need to pull the bag out of the box, remove some foam and cardboard, cut off a zip tie, remove a plate with the included tools that holds the gantry in place during shipping, then screw on the plate that the spool holder attaches to if you're not using the multicolor AMS Light changer. After that, you have to install a purge wiper with a single screw. Then you have to tighten 3 screws on the heat bed that were left loose by the factory on purpose to prevent damage to the machine during shipping. Lastly, you have to install the Bowden tube, and then you're done. The machine is fully built. The first time that you turn the machine on, it will go through a series of testing and calibration processes on its own to set everything up on the machine. After this, it will ask you to set up Wi-Fi if you want to. However, do keep in mind that this machine can also work straight from a micro SD card if you can't use Wi-Fi or prefer not to. Then I installed my favorite 3D printer filament on the printer and then used the touchscreen to load it onto the machine. After that, I simply chose the benchy model that was already on the card, and it printed very nice, and it's really that simple. Okay, so very quick, I wanted to go over some specs of this machine. Like I said, this is the A1 Mini, which has a workable area of 180 by 180 by 180 millimeters. It comes with an all-metal swappable hot end, a max temp of 300 degrees Celsius, a heated bed that can reach a max of 80 degrees Celsius, which is covered with a magnetic textured PEI plate for easy part removal. Now, because of the 80 degrees Celsius bed, it's not really recommended for ABS, PET, or carbon filaments, but in certain instances, it could probably do it. 99.9% of the things that I print are typically PLA, and this machine does that amazingly well. The A1 Mini is Wi-Fi capable with a monitoring camera that can also record a time-lapse of your print jobs. It has a filament runout sensor, the ability to recover a job after a power outage, and even a filament tangle sensor. The A1 Mini has a top speed of 500 millimeters per second, fully automatic calibration for the bed leveling and Z height, flow rate compensation, noise-canceling motors, vibration compensation, and the ability to print in multiple colors at the same time. Now, if most of what I just said doesn't make sense to you, then that's okay. It doesn't have to, because almost all of it is nothing you have to even worry about. And that is the point that I want to get out about this machine. With very little or no knowledge of 3D printing, you can still use this machine. It just works. All of those specs are really just a list, and really the only important takeaway is the bed size and if it will be large enough to print the object that you want to print. Now again, this is the mini version of this machine. However, Bambu Labs does sell a larger version of this machine called the A1, which adds about 3 inches to the workable area in all axes. Now that machine has also been out for a little bit, but it had been recalled after it was launched due to a power cord issue. It literally just returned on the market the same day I got this machine in the mail. However, to be honest, this machine was large enough to accommodate every model I print on a regular basis, so at a cost of $150 less, I still probably would have gone with the Mini in this case. Now, there are 3 different ways to print on this machine. The first way, and probably the way you're going to test this machine out to start off with, is right from the touch screen itself. The first thing that you're going to want to do is adjust the filament. So I'm going to click on filament, and you're going to want to load, and then you're going to stick it through the Bowden tube to put it all the way to the extruder so that it can start to load the filament. But after that, after you've already loaded the filament, I'm going to click on Edit. And then here you'll see that you have some parameters for different types of filament. I'm going to click on Generic. And again, I'm using the Overture PLA that I got off of Amazon. And instead of matte PLA, I'm going to choose PLA. And then I'm going to click OK. And then I'm going to go back. And then all I have to do is click on Print Files. And these are a bunch of the files that I've already worked with. If you come down here to where these are the files that would be on the machine when you get it. And then you just have to pick whichever one you want. There's some multicolor ones. There's a bed scraper. Personally, I don't like ever scraping the bed, and I don't see a real reason to do that since the bed is flexible and you can just take it and flex it. So I never want to kind of damage the surface of the bed. There's a little helicopter, and then some other, a whistle. So what I ended up doing was just printing the Benchy model. So you just click on the model. You'll see here that you could just click on print and it'll tell you that it's going to take 20 minutes to print this thing. If you want to create a time lapse for this print, you can do that. There is a little camera on there. It's not the greatest quality in the world, but it is there if you want to do that, and that's kind of a fun thing to do. The bed leveling, because we just went through the entire calibration process, there's really no reason to do the bed leveling again, after it's already been done. And then the last thing is this dynamic flow calibration. And what this is going to do is it's going to purge a little bit of material because it's going to kind of see the pressure that it needs to push the material through the extruder. So you can click that if you would like for your first print, but you really only maybe need to do that every now and then. It's not something that you have to have on all the time. And then all we're going to do is hit print, and it's going to make a little noise. And then it's going to start to go into the printing process. So if you want to use your computer to control the machine, you can download and install some software called Bambu Studio. And I created an account where I logged in. This is going to try to send models to your machine over the Bambu Studio cloud. If you prefer not to use that, you can save things directly to that SD card like we were talking about before, or you can set it up to where it'll send it over your personal Wi-Fi and not over the cloud server. So if you have your own model, you can just click on New Project. However, if you don't have a model and you just want to try some things out, you can click on More over here. And what that's going to do is it's going to open up this other website, and it's the Maker World. And there's tons of different models on here that people have already made using these machines. And you can just kind of browse and pick a file that you want to work with. So here's a file that I thought was pretty cool. So you can see a 3D preview of the thing that you're working with, and it'll kind of show you what it's going to look like. Another thing that to keep in mind here is they already have some of these printed on your specific machine. So you'll see that there's an A1 Mini. There's some other Bambu Labs printers of different sizes. So if you click on A1 Mini, you'll see that some people have already created versions using the A1 Mini. So if I wanted to open this in Bambu Studio, I could either just say, open it in Bambu Studio, or I could download the 3MF file or the STL file. The 3MF file is more of a project file. There's more to it than just the 3D model itself, or I can download the STL. But for now, I'm just going to say open in Bambu Studio. And this will open up another version of Bambu Studio. Okay. And so if I have this open, you'll see that the printer that I'm using is the Bambu Lab A1 Mini with the 0.4 nozzle, which is correct. The plate, which is talking about the build plate, is that removable textured PEI plate. They also have a smooth plate and some other ones, but for right now, I have the textured one, so that's what I'm going to use. And then for the filament, this is saying the Bambu PLA Basic, but again, I use Overture PLA, so I'm going to click on this, and I can just pick the Overture PLA. It's also down here. And then right here, it's showing you that in this particular project, they're printing it at a 0.2 millimeter standard layer height. You can go in there and you can pick other layer heights. The smaller the number, so the 0.08 is a very detailed model, but it's going to take longer. And then the higher you go at the 0.28, it'll say extra draft, but it's still a fairly detailed model, even if you pick that. But I'm going to keep it at just the regular standard 0.2. And that's really it. You can go in, if it was a model where it had particular overhangs, you could come into the support tab and click on enable support. But I'm just going to leave this exactly the same way that it came from the Maker World site. And then I'm just going to click on slice plate. It's going to go through and it's going to slice this model into multiple layers. If you want to see the layers that it's going to do, you can click on this little slider over to the right and you can move it up and down and you can see what it's going to do. And then after that, you can just click print plate and it's telling you that it's going to take 1 hour and 23 minutes. This is the name of my printer. It was kind of set up when I set up this software. And then again, just like when I was using the touchscreen, I can tell it whether I want to do bed leveling, do that flow dynamics calibration, or do a time lapse. I don't really want to do any of those right now. So I'm just going to click on send. And right over the cloud service, it's just sending the file to the printer. And then it's just going to run through the cycle and it's going to print it. If I click on the play button over here, you'll see that I'm in the device tab and it's just showing me what it's doing. Again, the camera on this it's not a high-res camera. It doesn't really have a large refresh. So it's good for kind of monitoring it, but it's really limited in what it actually does. And so then I can monitor it from here and just print it. And that's really all there is to doing a model that already existed. All right. But let's say you didn't want to use something directly from that Maker's World site. Let's say you wanted to use something from Thingiverse. And Thingiverse is another site where you could just download different models. This isn't specific to the Bambu Labs, but they'll still work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to search for a Moai statue. This was actually the first 3D print I ever printed. And you can go to, the files and you can download the files. So this is downloading an STL. And so that after you download the STL, I'm going to go back to the home and I want to create a new project. Okay. So this is what a fresh scene would look like. I didn't pull anything over from the Maker World site. You can see that it's just a regular plate and there's nothing on it. So let's say I wanted to import that STL that I just downloaded. So I can click on this add button up here. I'm going to navigate to that statue. And you'll see that it'll just plop it into your scene. And again, I'm going to come over here. I'm using the Bambu Labs A1 Mini. I am using the textured plate. I had already set this to the Overture PLA, which is fine. And then I'm just going to print it at the standard layer height. And that's it. I'm not going to change anything else about the way that this file came in. And then I'm just going to hit slice plate. And then you'll see exactly what it's going to print if I just slide this up and down. And that's how you set up your own file. Really, they make it super easy for you to just load the file and run it. And that's why I think that this is such a easy machine for somebody just getting into the hobby, or even if you've been in it for a long time. I'm not sitting there trying to adjust the height of anything. I'm just going to load it and it's going to work. And then all I have to do is click print plate. Again, I'm picking the printer. If I want to do bed leveling, a time lapse, or a flow dynamics, I can do any of that. And then I just hit send. It's being sent and downloaded to the machine, and then it'll just start printing. And then the last and final way is with the Bambu Labs app on your smartphone. Now, again, this is going to work really kind of the same way that either the touch screen or the Bambu Lab Studio works, where I can go in here and I can find all different types of models, or what I can also do is click on my device. I can see a live picture of what is going on with my device at this time. I can also go and hit the plus button up at the top, and then what that's going to do is it's going to allow me to scan the code on the box that came with the printer that was the free gift. So there's a QR code on the side of that, and as soon as I make it visible, you'll see that particular model will show up, and it'll be the model that you'll have to print to use that free gift that I'll talk about in just a second, that came with the Bambu A1 Mini, and it'll allow you to print that to use that free gift. Now, if I go back, you can also have access to everything that is currently on your SD card. So anything that was preloaded on the SD card or anything that you added to it, either through Bambu Labs or just by adding the model on, and you'll see that you can go through, it'll load all of these models, and then I can print any of these that have already been uploaded, again, at any time, right through my phone. So let's say I wanted to print another one of these enclosures. I could just hit start print. Again, it's picking the PLA. This one is doing the bed leveling, or I could turn that off, and then I just hit start print. And so now it has sent it to the printer, and it'll start printing. Now again, you could go in here and you could search through all the different models and pick one. So now let's say I picked this model of the duck, and so that I want to prepare to print. Now, when you're using the cell phone, one of the issues that you might run into is that nobody has already set up this file for the A1 Mini. So there's not really a print profile for the mini version. So this is not going to allow me to print this on my machine because it's incompatible currently with the version that I have. Now, if I had downloaded this particular model, I could go to the Bambu Studio software on my computer, and then I can, just like I showed you with that Moai statue, I could just run the file and then send it to my printer. But on this particular one, it's not going to work straight through the phone. So let me see if I can find one that will. So I'm going to search a A1 Mini spool holder, which is something I ended up printing. And let's see, the one that I printed was right here. So now if I click on that, again, I can see different images of what this is going to be. And it even shows me how it's going to set up on my textured plate, so that I can say prepare to print. And you'll see that this one does have an A1 Mini, so I know that it will print it on this machine. And so then I just click print. You'll see that it has selected the A1 Mini because it's already set up in that profile. I'm using the external spool holder because I do not have the AMS Light. I am printing in PLA, and it is Overture PLA, and that's really it. Again, I still can change whether I'm using the bed leveling or the flow calibration, and then just click on Start Print. It will send this file to my printer and start to print. I can also cancel a print from here. I can change it. So I don't really want to print this right now, so I'm just going to click on Stop. It says it can not be resumed after you stop it. That's fine. I hit stop. And then I even get a notification once the printer has done what I asked it to do. And that's another thing, that once you have the app hooked up, it will send me notifications every time the print is done, or if there's any issues with the print, like the filament ran out or something else like that, the app will let me know so I don't have to be, watching my printer at all times. Now I want to talk a little bit about the attachment that you can get with this 3D printer that will allow you to print in 4 different colors at the same time. It's called the AMS Light and is sold separately by the company or in a combo with the A1 Mini itself. As you can see, I don't have one, and there's a reason for that. The first reason is that I've been 3D printing for almost a decade now, and I have printed in multiple colors at the same time before on some of my other 3D printers. But to be honest, since I typically am not printing toys or other novelties, I very rarely ever use multicolor printing capabilities of the machines that I have. All of the 3D prints that I make on a regular basis have no need for multicolor printing. Now, don't get me wrong, it's pretty cool to be able to easily print with multiple colors that you can set up super quick in the software, but this brings me to my second reason that I haven't tried it yet and not sure if I ever will, and that is the waste that it produces. I have seen many videos online where they are making really cool toys and other models, but the waste that gets purged by the machine to make all of those color changes could be up to 2 to 3 times the volume of the end product to make those color changes. Take, for instance, this model I made on another larger 3D printer. Now, this is way larger than you can probably make on the A1 Mini, but even this was printed in 3 different sections. The bottom was printed in white and then painted in green and in red. And the top was printed in red, and it was printed from the body all the way up to the ruffles on his neck, and then his head was printed in a separate model, also in red. If this was printed in 4 colors, could you imagine the amount of plastic that would need to be purged? It just isn't worth it for me, and a little acrylic paint goes a long way with no waste. Now, I might get one in the future just to test it out, and perhaps I can even see if I can figure out how to recycle all of that purged waste into my Buster Beagle 3D injection molding machine, but for now, I'm content with the printer alone. Another consideration is the space. Without the AMS Light sitting next to this machine, I could probably fit 3 of these machines on this table, and I would essentially triple my output. Even with the one machine, I have printed quite a few models so far, which again are typically more of practical models than toys. Of course, I started off with the benchy model that came on the micro SD card. My particular kit came with a motor kit for this boat as a free gift from Bambu Labs. I printed it up just to do it, and it was a cool model that turned out great. Now, if you can see on this model, there were a few little areas where I get, some wisps of some plastic. One other thing that I highly recommend for anybody who has a 3D printer is one of these. So this is something that I got off of Amazon. It's not a DeWalt tool, even though it looks like a DeWalt tool, but it's just a heat gun that hooks up to a DeWalt battery. And, when you're using something like this model that has those wisps on it, you can literally just hit it with something like this, like really, really quick, and those things will essentially just disappear. It's a really, really cool tool that I kind of utilize quite a lot for just cleaning up 3D prints in general. So I printed up a bunch of these enclosures for my Buster Beagle 3D injection molding machine. This is the largest 3D printed part on my machine that I produce and sell, but it still fit even in the smaller workable area of this printer, which is why I went with this machine. I also printed up a bunch of feet that I sell on Etsy to tie down the Xtool D1 laser engraver to be able to use absolute coordinates and a grid. I then printed a bunch of other items I sell on Etsy, including this mug riser adapter for the Xtool RA2 Pro. Now, again, I want to mention that for many of you, this is not a new machine, and you've probably seen many other reviews from 7+ months ago about this machine, but all of that time has benefited me in other ways. To be honest, in the almost 2 complete spools that I have run through this machine, I didn't have a single problem straight out of the box. it printed every single thing I tried on it without any issues whatsoever. Now, I had the benefit of many of the bug fixes and firmware updates that have happened since the launch that has smoothed out many of the issues that might have come up for other people in the past. For me, there were no firmware updates available since I simply had the latest and it just worked. Now, if I had to find one thing that I think could be improved on the machine, then that would be the spool holder on the back of the machine. The only issue that comes up for me was that since I use cardboard spools almost exclusively, there can be an instance where the rubbing of the cardboard on the plastic spool roll can create some sort of resistance that may make the entire spool pull forward towards the gantry. You can see it here where if the spool is empty and light enough, it may even touch the gantry. To fix this, I simply went online to see what others in the community had already come up with, and I found this spool holder by Brando Chili that was a remix of another one I had seen in the past on Thingiverse. It just introduces a roller that uses a 608 bearing that allows for a much smoother roll that keeps the spool spinning without any friction at all. For me, it was just a worthwhile upgrade, and I'm glad that I did it. So why did I get this printer, and would I get it again? First is the cost of this machine. For the high quality of this printer, you would actually expect a larger price point, but at $249 at the time of this review, it's just a steal. In fact, if you take a look at what I have sitting on the bed of this printer, when I sell all of these pieces, it will actually pay for this entire machine. It was just a good investment that will have great returns as well. Also, as I've said before, I've been printing for many years now, but some of my printers are getting old and tired. They have thousands of prints under their belt and thousands of hours. Also, they don't have the out-of-the-box features that this machine has. The current 3D printers I have print this enclosure in a little over 4 hours time, and even then they are not up to the quality of this A1 Mini can produce. I printed the same enclosure on the A1 Mini in 2.5 hours, and to be honest, at even half the speed of what this printer is capable of printing. I was just so happy printing it at an hour and a half faster than my older machines that I haven't even tried to go faster, but I probably will soon. When it comes to what you used to be able to get in 3D printer versus this A1 Mini machine right out of the box, there's really no comparison. My first 3D printer was a Tibo Tarantula that came in hundreds of pieces and needed to be put together with a 35-page manual that should have been 50 pages since it skipped over all the electronic setup. That printer didn't even come with a cooling fan for the printer. This Moai statue was the very first thing that I ever printed on a 3D printer. You can see the quality that I was getting straight out of the box. It was only after hours and days and weeks of tweaking, designing my own parts for it, and calibrating it did the machine start to produce good parts. I have also been maintaining the machine over years to keep it at this decent quality. This is the last print that I made on that machine after all of those years of service. I'm going to be replacing that machine with this A1 Mini. Kind of breaks my heart as there is no Buster Beagle 3D without that 3D printer, but it's going to a very well-deserved retirement until I might call it up again in the future. The point I'm trying to get across is that these machines have come a long way, and this Bambu Labs Mini is a fantastic machine. You can still buy machines where you can tweak every little setting and adjust firmware and tweak things to your every whim, but why? If the fun of 3D printing for you is in the tech and the ability to customize your 3D printer, then there are all kinds of choices. If you just want a 3D printer to work that even my daughters and wife could use with zero experience in 3D printing, then this machine is an excellent choice. This will definitely be the 3D printer I recommend to all those people asking me which one they should get for themselves or for a kid wanting to get into 3D printing. So that's it. If you enjoyed this video, please do hit that like button, drop a comment about your experience with this or any other 3D printer, and consider subscribing for more content having to do with 3D printing, laser engraving, injection molding, or all things 3D. Thanks again, stay safe, and we'll see you next time.